All right. Guess what? We're back, everybody, but the we is a strong word. It's not so much we. Unfortunately, Mr. Lopez couldn't figure out how to navigate through snow, and I think with him having lost 2 tires last week thanks to the hog set potholes in Indianapolis, throwing shade at a mayor over here, but even though we're getting ready to talk to mayor. So it's going to be me, and our special guest today is none other than Westfield Mayor, and I still don't call him mayor. I'm old school. I still call him Colonel. I always will. But Westfield Mayor, retired United States Marine Colonel Scott Willis. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so glad to have you on. You know, we're going to get. I wish Jerry would have been here because it would have been 3 vets, but then again, maybe that would have been too much. So. So, man, you braved it all the way down here from Westfield to Franklin, and you were telling me they took you through God's country, through GPS. And
took me down the back roads,
yes. Good Lord. But you made it,
I did. Unfortunately, I got behind a BMW on some pretty blown over roads, and of course, I'm in my truck, 4-wheel drive, just riding up its you-know-what, trying to get around him, but took me a little bit longer than I liked.
Well, it wasn't Jerry's BMW, so... It wasn't Jerry's. So, yeah, no, he called. He's like, dude, I'm not going to 465 was shut down. Yeah. And they started redirecting them back. Apparently, the semis could not get up the ramp because it's so icy right now. You know, it hasn't snowed in how many days now?
2 days now. You'd have thought the roads would be clear by now.
You would think. Between Hogset and NDOT, or as I affectionately refer to it as Idiot, what the hell?
Yeah, you come into Westfield, and our roads, we don't have any snow or ice on our roads now.
Got them good and
It was a heavy lift to get it that way, but we worked real hard to make sure that we could have, quite frankly, gone back to work yesterday. A lot of the businesses could have opened, but you know, when you bring workers in from all over the central Indiana area, not everybody had the roads cleared as we did. So we were shut down yesterday, but we're open today.
Well, I'm assuming safety in your town's
always paramount.
You know,
yep.
It would be a mission first. You know, safety always, or
that's
something
right.
like that. Yeah, but that's awesome, man. So let's go back though. I want to go back because you and I met years before you became mayor. But let's go back. Let's talk about. Let's let everybody know who you are, where you're from. Where did you grow up in Westfield?
No, I grew up in Kokomo. Actually, born and raised in Kokomo.
Mustang.
No, actually, the football team. You actually know of them.
Yep.
I was a Taylor Titan. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know several of the guys that my buddies played for the Mustangs, but I went to Taylor High School, little county school, small town area outside the city of Kokomo. But I was born and raised there, and grew up. Went to Purdue, got my engineering degree, and then halfway through my time at Purdue, Desert Storm happened, and I come from a legacy Marines going all the way to my great grandfather in World War I. So I went down, signed up with the local recruiter for OCS. Obviously, the war was over well before I graduated from college, but went into the Marines after that and kind of set my life on a different trajectory than I probably would have thought. But
that's hilarious. We actually have that in common. When the Gulf War broke out, I was this patriotic young kid that had successfully avoided all the recruiters through high school. I run down to sign up, and I signed up for the Army, and the damn thing was over before I even shipped the basic. Right. And I'm like the recruiter was like, do I still have to go? And he's like, well, yeah, you still gotta go. So I went and then 20 years, 9 months, and 4 days later, I retired. So
yeah, I mean, that's the same with me. I mean, when the war ended, like 2 weeks after I signed up, I'm like, well, hell, now what do I do? But I was committed by then. I was all in on. I almost joined the Marines out of high school. I applied for the Naval Academy and was going through that process. Went through MEPS. Determined I did not have 20/20 vision at the time. I wanted to follow my grandfather's footsteps. He was a pilot, and when that door shut, I was like, well, if I can't fly, I'm not joining the military. So I pulled out and going to Purdue, but. It all came.
Did you go to Purdue for engineering then?
I did, civil engineering.
So is that what you did in the Marine Corps? Were you an engineer officer?
Nope, I was artillery. I was a cannon cocker, so I absolutely loved it. Wanted to blow stuff up, right? Yeah. But when I signed up, I said, look, I want to be a Marine, but I don't want to use my engineering degree. I want to do some fun stuff. So
you were artillery, though, your entire career, right?
No, actually, when I picked up captain, I was sitting in the IRR looking for command time, just moved back to Indiana. I was in the reserves at that time, and there was no artillery anywhere near. 9/11 happened, and I wanted to be engaged, so I ended up joining a tank company down in Fort Knox.
Oh, wow.
Alpha Company 8th Tanks, and so I picked up a secondary MOS of tanker. So I did tanks for about 3 years, and then came back into artillery on the back end.
Okay, so for a lot of people that don't realize, there is just not a lot of places to serve in the Marine Corps Reserves in Indiana. I think you've got a contingency in Terre Haute, maybe out by Old Fort Bend, but that's really all I'm aware of. You know better than me.
South Bend too. There's an engineering company in South Bend, but yeah, that's pretty much it. There's just not much in Indiana.
So you didn't have to change but once being in the reserves, and you made it all the way to colonel, which for those of you who haven't served in the military, there's a pyramid when you go up in ranks and whatnot. And once you hit lieutenant colonel, which is kind of the top of the pyramid, then it's like a straight pole, straight up. Going from 05 to 06, lieutenant colonel to colonel, is incredibly difficult. You got to commit a lot more time of service. It's just... And I think you would agree. There's a little bit of luck involved, timing and everything, being the right guy at the right time.
That's
right. And obviously, luck is for those who are prepared for it. You breed your own luck. So it's kind of like everybody always wants to say, it's not who you know, or it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, you got to know what you're talking about for that person that you know to take you seriously. So you had to be in that position, but you had to be ready to step up. How many times were you? Did you get it the first time you were? I mean, how many times? Wow.
I did, actually. I was promoted. I think at the time, like 13% got promoted. There was literally less than like 50 Marines, lieutenant colonels who got promoted up. And when I picked up lieutenant colonel, because there was nowhere anywhere near me that I could do my job in my MOS, I actually had to fly to drills. I was paying more money to drill than the government was paying me for being there. So for like 6 years, it literally cost me to participate in the reserves.
Yeah,
but by then I was all in, right? And I wanted to continue to serve. I loved what I was doing, and then I never thought I'd get promoted to colonel, and I almost didn't put a package in. And then my OIC one-star said, don't ever shortchange your career. Let the Marine Corps tell you when they're done with you. You keep playing the game until that day comes. And so I put a package in, and I got a call like 6 months later when the board finalized, and they said, hey, you got promoted. I was excited. I was a little bit shocked at the same time because I know how competitive it was. And then I got to serve another 6-7 years as 06. So that was great.
How many total years did you end up doing?
30 years. 30 years.
30 years of service to our nation. Thank you, sir, for your service to our nation. It's awesome. I remember when you and I first met, you were already a full bird colonel. And I don't know if you said, I'm not going to claim to have figured it out myself. I'm not, I'm a little punchy. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. But I was like, you're the highest ranking Marine serving in Indiana right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, and for 5 of the 6 years I was colonel, I was the only colonel in the Marine Corps in Indiana.
Wow.
And then right before I retired.
And clearly there's no generals in Indiana.
No generals in Indiana.
Right.
Not to say there never would be, but at least when I served there wasn't. There still isn't. But right before I retired, there was another Hoosier that got promoted to full bird. So, and I think right now, Mike O'Quinn just got promoted 06. He got promoted last week. So right now, I think we have 1 or 2 06s in Indiana.
What part of Indiana is he from?
He's over in Plainfield or Brownsburg. I think he's Brownsburg right now. He's Central Indiana.
Good for him.
I served with him when I was a colonel. He was a 05 lieutenant colonel that served under me. Him and Mike Simic. I don't know if you know Mike or not. Mike's a Plainfield guy as well. He got to lieutenant colonel, never got to colonel, but good dude nonetheless. Those two live real close to each other.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got so many friends of mine that retired as lieutenant colonel that I literally call that collective group of my friends the 05 Mafia. We all heard about the E4 Mafia, but this is the 05 Mafia. I mean, I could rattle off name after name after name of all my buddies that were commissioned officers. I was a non-commissioned officer. I worked for a living. They all retired as 05s. They've had successful careers, made it to lieutenant colonel. It adds to what you're talking. That's why people that don't understand how remarkable it is to make 06, to just the time of everything to be there. Then you got to hold that rank for 3-4 years to even retire at it. I mean,
got to do 3 years, and it's hard to find. So in the Marine Corps, if you pick up 06 in the reserves, you're immediately dropped to the inactive reserves, and then you have to go apply for jobs.
Oh, wow.
And there's no guarantee. You could get promoted and never get picked up as an 06 and you still retire. as an 05 or an 06 that just got IRR points. So you have to keep applying and getting jobs. I was lucky, and I found a job right away and didn't have any problems. But
and where was that job, the first one?
So I was in 05 working for Marine Forces Northern Command. So we were working with FEMA doing DISCA operations, doing a lot of disaster relief operations. When I got promoted, they had an opening for an 06. So I was the Marine Corps liaison to AF North, Air Force Northern Command. I worked for a 3-star general down at, down Tyndall Air Force Base near Panama City. And so I worked directly for him for 3 years. So anytime like a hurricane came rolling through Florida, we would get mobilized, and I would be the point person for the Marine Corps, advising him on Marine Corps assets flowing into his area of operation for disaster relief.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even dare guess the budget, the dollar figure of those assets you had been delegated the responsibility of managing.
Yeah.
So you did retire. What year did you retire? You finally said, I'm done, or did the Marine Corps tell you, hey, you're not getting a star? So.
Well, I never. So in 27 years, I was in zone for Brigadier General. But in the reserves in the Marine Corps, I think there's only 3 or 4 generals.
Right.
And it's an active duty job.
Okay.
So you immediately come on active duty orders, and you're based generally out in New Orleans. That was not in the cards for me. I was serving in city council at the time. And really, if I wanted to be an active duty Marine, I'd stayed on active duty. So when it came up for me to apply for promotion, I didn't put a package in, which immediately I'm out at 30 years. That's my max time and grade as an 06. Okay. So I just finished out the last 3 years and retired as a colonel.
In 17, correct?
2022 is when I retired.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a little over 3 years now.
So wife, kids, how many kids you got?
Got 3 kids. My oldest lives in Indianapolis. She just graduated from Xavier.
Nice.
She's a scientist for a food company. My middle daughter's a junior at Purdue, and my little guy is a junior at Westfield High School.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. And,
wife and I have been married 25. Our 25th anniversary was in December.
Congratulations. That's awesome, because she too served. My wife was
She's a saint.
Yeah,
right. I mean, most military spouses are. I mean, the sacrifice they make so we can go and do what we do. Right. I don't get it. It's hard.
We have some similarities, and so when I would join. When I was in the Indian Army National Guard, I was in a unit. It was a long-range surveillance detachment. You know, the 151st Long-Range Surveillance. The name has changed many times. Then it became D Company Long-Range Surveillance. It was D Company Ranger during Vietnam.
It's all special ops, right?
Well, I wouldn't say special ops per se. It's an unconventional mission. It's doing reconnaissance behind enemy lines type of thing. But that unit, when I was there, was a detachment, 61 members from the commanding officer all the way down to the youngest guy. That's it. So everybody wanted to be in that unit. So they were able to keep the standards incredibly high. You know, there was a line at the door to get in. So it's like, hey, man, you're not cutting the mustard. You can go. Somebody wants your slot. So a lot of us, like I took a significant reduction in rank to get into that unit. I went from I was about to make E7. I reduced myself all the way to E4.
Oh, wow.
To get, I wouldn't even, and I had a drill sergeant's badge. I was a former drill sergeant. So our first sergeant was like, you're drill specialist. You're the most special drill in the Army. But we had a guy that went from 03 captain to E3. Wow. And then he went back, he went 02 to E3. Then he took his commission and later became the commanding officer. I mean, it's just,
you can't do that in Marine. It's very different.
But this is pre 9/11.
Okay.
So this wasn't paying my rent. Yeah. So when you talk about, you spent more money than you made, trust me, I feel it, especially E4 pay.
Yeah.
We got jump pay, which was prorated to drill dates. Even though we jumped more than most active duty airborne units, our jump pay was prorated on like $25 a month. It was just like, so I'm burning in for $25 a month. But we had guys traveling from New Orleans, Massachusetts. Everybody wanted to be in that unit, and it was amazing to serve in that unit, because it's like, do you want to be an elite in an average unit, or you want to be an average guy in an elite unit? And to have the opportunity to be in that unit for so many years, it was amazing. But
so what did you retire at then? Did they retire you as an E6?
So I ended up I worked my way back up in rank. Because you just had to wait for a guy to move on, or you got promoted out of the unit. And you come out on. I came out on the list for E5 after I was number 1 on the list, obviously with my points. You put number 2 and 3 together, still number 1. But that's not fair. I had all this time. I was a drill sergeant, a lot of points for that as an NCO, but I ended up getting medically retired because I got medevaced out of Afghanistan. Some injuries, no cool guy, sexy story, anything like that. I'm not gonna, there I was deep in the brass. I got injured. And later, and so as you're well aware, everything stops. You're not getting promoted, nothing. And I just waited, and I got medically retired. But I spent more. It's my hobby, and I got compensated a little bit of money to pay. It's like people hunt, fish, play pool, whatever their hobby. I always joked. I said I stay proficient in killing those that wish to do our nation harm. And the
true
evil
big
horde,
game hunting.
Back we were old enough, we still called them the evil communists because you and I both joined under the Cold War era,
that's right.
and then we went into the global war on terror, and then I finally retired in 12.
Wow,
so
good for you.
And time has flew by since then.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
It goes by fast.
But let's get into so you get the family dynamic. I'm sure the wife was not brokenhearted when you retired.
She was ready.
Yeah.
She was ready. And in my last 4 years, I was the Inspector General for Marine Forces Reserve. So I traveled all over the country inspecting reserve units for their readiness to deploy. So I was gone 2 out of every 4 weeks. I'd go for a week, come back for a week, go for a week. Meanwhile, I'm trying to run a business. I had 2 businesses at the time.
Right.
And I'm on city council. And somehow, sometime.
So talk to that for a minute.
Yeah.
You're on council at the same time you're a colonel in the reserves.
That's right.
You really had to mind your clock. People don't understand how you had to mind that clock because of the Hatch Act and whatnot. You had to absolutely make sure you didn't do anything political whatsoever while on, or even if you're on orders for like a weekend drill. In the evening, you think, oh, well, I'm off the clock. I can go to. Not really, because you're on orders 24/7 on a mute of 4 for that whole weekend. So you had to make sure you balance that because there's always somebody over there wanting to take a shot at you politically for it. So
and you can't if you're in uniform, you can't take any pictures and put it on your Facebook page because then that's a conflict. So it was a lot of juggling of balls and trying to remember which hat you're wearing at that moment in time. It got to be interesting, to say the least.
I mean, you can't even if somebody calls you while you're on orders and says, hey, I want to talk to you about blah, 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 something related to the city. Is when you're on a council, you're like, I can't talk about this right now.
That's right. I think one time I dialed in for a council meeting. It was after hours. Drill was over. I just hadn't flown back yet. But beyond that, I'd get calls, and I'd have to step away and just say, hey, I can't take the calls right now. I'm on military duty, and when I get back, we'll talk. So
let's transition from, as we established, the wife was pretty much okay with you taking that uniform off for the last time, putting those boots away for good. But then you stepped into the political. Well, you obviously did them simultaneously for a while. What does she think about politics? Because that's a whole nother
every minute of it.
I bet.
So here, imagine this conversation. At the time, like I said, I owned a couple businesses. I was making really good money. She was, for the most part, stay-at-home mom. She started getting back into real estate. And I come home and I say, hey, I'm thinking about running for mayor, and I'm going to take about a 400% pay cut. We're going to be in the public eye. Everything I do is going to be in the public eye. I'm going to take criticism nonstop every day for every decision I make. But you're going to love it, and this is going to be really fun for you. The first time I had mentioned it to her, she said, absolutely not. And she had earned the right to say that. I mean, all the times I deployed to Iraq, and we had 2 babies at home under the age of 2. So she had dealt with a lot of my nonsense and the things I was doing in my career. And so she had the right to say no. And so I let it go. And I was on council at the time, and we knew that the outgoing mayor wasn't going to run. He'd been in office for a long time. And things started lining up. People started lining up to run, and she just looked at me and said, if you don't run, who will? I think you'd be a great mayor. If you want to run, I'll support it. And so she got on board. She regrets that to this day. But so we made a run, and I won. So it is what it is. But it was it's still challenging for the family. I didn't appreciate, keep this in mind, I ran against the high school football coach. Wildly popular guy in our community. Great guy.
Primary or general?
In the primary.
Oh, even harder.
So we didn't have a general election, just primary.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's a teacher. And by the way, my middle daughter, he was her teacher during the election, during the campaign. So every day she had to go in and see this guy, right? Amount of pressure on my kids I didn't appreciate until on election night when they finally called the race and I had won. My daughter, my son, and my wife all run to me. We give a big group family bear hug, and they're all three bawling. And I realized at that time, wow. I mean, I was under pressure, right? You don't want to lose in a public setting like that. But the pressure on my kids and my wife, I didn't appreciate it until that moment.
Well, you know, a little perspective maybe on it is, you know, when you were in the Marines, you know, and you deployed the fight, they weren't there. This, obviously not the same type of fight, but they were in the trenches with you.
That's right.
They were there. They were hearing things. They were seeing things. Good Lord, the social media alone.
Oh, it's brutal. And we had a couple attacks on my kids on social media. You know, kids are mean. You get into school and they'll say things. My youngest son was like, Dad, what do I do if you lose? I got to go back to school. I said, you go back with your head up high. You didn't do anything. I was the one that got beat, not you. Don't let it beat you down. But they were feeling that same pressure because my son
kids are mean.
Yeah, and he ran in a circle with athletes. He's an athlete, and he didn't play football, but his buddies do. So it's just that pressure that I never appreciated. You know, looking back, would I have done it if I'd have known that? I don't know, to be honest with you. But I'm here now, and it's what I'm doing, and I love what I'm doing, and so we're going to continue to fight.
Yeah, maybe God just made sure you didn't see it on the way in, so you would do it.
Yeah, I believe that. I really do, because it was there was a lot of pressure on me, but I'm used to that.
Well, I'm sure the
that's
wife
not unusual for a candidate.
When you needed her to be, was quite stoic, and then kind of made sure the kids kept it at a dull roar when they were having issues with it, so you could focus on the mission at hand. So you've been there how many years now? How long have you been there now?
2 years, January 1st.
Okay.
So
everything's going great, man. Tell us.
Depends on who you talk to in my city, but I
sing
think
your
so.
praises, man. Let's hear it. What's going? What are some of your key accomplishments in your first half of your first term? And I'm gonna say first term because I'm assuming you're gonna do it again. But what are some of the things that you're the most proud of that you've been able to accomplish so far?
Well, in Westfield, what we lack, or at least when I took office, was a commercial tax base. You know, we're a bedroom community.
Yep.
People sleep in Westfield. They don't live, work, or play in Westfield. That's what
Negatively impacts on the property tax alone.
It does. It's a huge burden on the taxpayer when 90% of your tax or your revenue comes from the residential side. So, you know, we have a commercial tax base that's bailing us out.
Yep.
So
TIF districts?
Everything, you know, a big chunk of the city's TIF'd.
Okay.
It is what it is. It was that way before I took office.
Right.
But since I've been in office a year and a half, 2 years now, $1.5 billion in new economic development that's come into the city to help diversify that tax base. We still got a lot of work to do. But we've done a tremendous job, I think, in luring in new businesses, new amenities to the city. I'm also really proud of what we're doing in our downtown area. If you've been to downtown Westfield, it's really been dying like a lot of small towns in Indiana. It's been dying for years.
Oh, I remember driving through Westfield all the time back in the day, and it was just a little sleepy town, you know, that was kind of, like you said, the bedroom community, everybody, you know, it was growing with neighborhoods, people that predominantly commute into Indianapolis for work, and then you kind of it develops and grows over the top of the old town. Were you able to capture the town back and start building back the old town?
We're starting to, yeah. You're seeing the effects of that. Now, we just released, I don't know, 6 months ago, a new vision for downtown.
Okay.
When I came into office, we were already contemplating a corner of our downtown area.
Yep.
We've been working hard to build that out. We filled in the gaps since then, and we're starting to see projects come that are going to really revitalize downtown. It's going to be very unique to what you see in Hamilton County. It'll take pieces of Carmel and Noblesville, Zionsville, and Fishers, but we'll be our own city. It's going to be very different, and I'm really excited about the future of it.
Well, you definitely have the populace because, you know, it wasn't that long ago. Westfield, the Shamrocks, the high school team, was not like well known when it came to athletics, and now you know you got state title up there.
Right.
I mean, you guys are. I mean, they were very competitive in wrestling again this year and football. I mean, you guys are doing great things in athletics, and so you clearly have the pool of athletes that comes from a lot of people. What is the current population?
Well, we're doing a special census. Hopefully the government doesn't shut down once again and put it on pause.
Looks like it's coming. So we put that video out. I was like, man, people's comprehension levels just unbelievably, it hurts my soul. We put out that, hey, we probably have another shutdown coming. People thought, they just extrapolated from that, like lockdown. like COVID things coming again. Oh, I'll never do that again. Wait, no, shut down. Government shut down. Jesus Christ, comprehension levels are.
And it just happened, right?
Yeah,
You feel like this thing just ended.
It's looking like, because they just signed an extension, so the end of this month.
We're banking that it's going to happen, so it's delaying that. But we think the population's around 75,000 people in Westfield.
Are you that high now?
That high. And when I took office, well, in 2020, the census said we were 46,000.
I was going to guess around half that.
Yeah. It's amazing how we, in 2023, we were the 6th fastest growing city in America. And what's even more wild, we were the
Fishers was number 1.
Long time ago.
Okay. Well, they full now?
Yeah, they're filled up. We were the only city in the Midwest to show up in the top 100 list. So it's not unique to Westfield. Carmel, Fishers both went through it as well. What's happening in Hamilton County is truly a unicorn, not only for Indiana but for the Midwest. It's truly remarkable. It's been an absolute blast being a part of that, quite frankly, to see the growth and so many things good coming into our community, and it makes it fun being mayor when things are happening.
Wow. Well, that's we've got some really good mayors in this state, and then we have some that are not so much. So, I've been joking, and it's been put on our social media. Everybody's rightfully complaining about the lack of response in Indianapolis to this snowpocalypse. But, I try to be an optimist. I always tell people, Coors Light isn't watered down beer. It's the best bottled water on the planet because there's beer in it.
Be nice. I love Coors Light.
So, right. But it's kind of like, I say, you guys keep complaining about all these potholes. The snow has temporarily filled these thousands upon thousands of potholes out here. So,
that's the bright side of it.
The bright side of it. But Indianapolis is a mess right now. So Jerry's not here because he couldn't get here because it's all shut down. Yeah. He was on 465. They shut it down. That's insanity to me. It hasn't snowed in 2 days.
And we started prepping our roads on Wednesday. We started brining roads in Westfield on Wednesday, 3 days before the snow started hitting. That shows you how much we've been working. We went 24/7 operations in our streets department Friday in preparation for the snow. So we were ready. We missed a side road here or there, but I would say within the first 24 hours, 99.9% of our roads were hit with a plow, and most of the time 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And certainly today, you'll see snow everywhere, but you won't see any on the roads. The roads are clear.
Right. Well, I think they're real icy now. I think so. NDOT cleared 465. Which NDOT and Indy, 2 different entities, but NDOT. But then, the sun's out. It's kind of warm comparatively. I think a lot of that stuff melted, and so 465 is a sheet of ice right now. Yeah. So the semis literally can't get up the on ramps because they're spinning. Yeah. I won't kill NDOT for it that bad, but come on.
We need NDOT, so you're not going to hear a bad word come out of my mouth. I got a lot of projects I need to help
Citizen,
with.
I'll say what I want. NDOT, I've just been so discouraged by NDOT the last few years with these projects. It's like, you've been working on this stretch of road for 3 straight years.
Seems like 465, especially up on the north side, it's always under construction. Has been, seems like, for a decade.
Well, that's going to get what some of these folks might label me as conspiracy theorist, but I don't think I am because my conspiracies keep coming true. We always talk about the military-industrial complex. This is the freaking blacktop industrial complex. I think we just have perpetual blacktop contracts to keep these people paid. I got more for that, but I won't. I'm not going to put the good mayor of Westfield. I'm not going to put you on the spot. That'll be me and Jerry when we run our mouths and talk shit. I'm not doing that to you. It's not the workers, I will say that. Yeah. The city of Indianapolis street department workers. They're busting their ass. Yeah. It's not that this better than most as a retired colonel from the Marine Corps. Leadership is everything.
It is.
Leadership is everything. Yeah, sure you have to have what I call the holy trinity of a successful organization. Like the triune God. You got the leadership, teamwork, and communication. We always forget about the communication factor, but I don't care how great of a leader you have and how great of a team you have if they're not communicating. Yeah. And there's a disconnect in Indianapolis specifically, and there has been for years. It wasn't that long ago Indianapolis was amazing. Not that long ago. Oh, shocker! There was another Marine Corps colonel running that town.
You beat me to it.
You know, I started a hashtag. Because I'm a snarky smart ass. I started a hashtag I was putting on social media about anything and everything in the hashtag Bring Back Ballard. Hashtag Bring Back Ballard.
Yeah, Greg was awesome.
Greg hits me on Facebook. No. So it's not so many words. He goes, nope. I think Winnie, his wife, would kill him.
Winnie will kill him. He's done. He's done with
he did such a good job.
He did.
He really did. We didn't have these problems with the roads, everything. There wasn't all this happened after he left.
Well, and it was funny because you remember when Peterson was running, when Ballard was running against Peterson.
Yep.
Peterson made the comment, I think in a debate, to say, well, what do you know about, you're not even qualified to be a mayor. And Ballard just laid into him about all of his experience in the Marine Corps. Yeah. And whether it's the Marines, the Army, it doesn't really matter. If you've reached that level of rank in any armed forces.
The logistical aspect of a lieutenant colonel's job alone.
Yeah, well, and he was the base commandant in Iraq.
Well, how many people do you have under your leadership as a lieutenant colonel, your battalion commander?
1,900, a couple thousand people.
How many employees do you have in the city of Indianapolis? Probably something more than that, but that's pretty comparable.
Yeah.
I mean, who else to put it? What did you have before you got there, Mr. Bart Peterson? I mean, what were you in charge of?
Exactly right.
So I've always contended that Ballard didn't so much as win that race because it was a long shot and it was an upset, as Peterson lost that race because in his arrogance, like a month before the general election, he announced he was going to do a citywide income tax.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was the income tax itself that got him unelected. It was the fact even his own party looked at it and say, you're so arrogant that you think you can say that 30 days out from election? No. And Ballard won that. And it was unbelievable. I'm good friends with the then Republican Central Committee Chairman Tom John, and Tom. They're like, what
I love Tom. He's a good dude.
Isn't he great?
Good dude.
Good for we met up for a couple beers a few months ago. I just tried to stay connected with him. You guys are up there on the north side. I'm down here on the south side. So, but yeah, it was just. I mean, he just came out of nowhere and took that.
Well, and I'm sure Tom told us the party wouldn't even support. I don't even think
100%.
Mitch Daniels endorsed Ballard.
Nothing.
Nobody thought he had a snowball chance in hell of winning that race.
And it should give Indianapolis enough hope that they lean in more. I mean, you remember?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think Indianapolis is too far gone now. I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know if a Republican can ever win that city now. At least in today's politics, something may shift down the road.
I joked, but it's more serious than funny or ironic anyway. Peyton Manning could move back to Indianapolis and run for mayor of Indianapolis as a Republican, and he'd lose.
Probably.
He'd lose.
That might be the only guy that could pull it off. I mean, Ballard, if he ran in today's elections.
Reggie Miller wouldn't win on a Republican ticket in Indianapolis now.
It's changed. But everything's so polarized now. I mean, it's both sides, right? You go to Republican cities, you could say the same thing.
Yep.
It's not unique to the Democrats, but yeah, it's crazy how far things have slipped. But I've told people time and time again, I told Greg he had to write a book on this. The greatest political upset in Indiana politics history is that race. Ballard beating, because Peterson was very well known, very successful. He was doing some good things in it. Obviously, the tide turned on him with property taxes, and then he was arrogant with some of the taxes he was adding. And Ballard came out of nowhere. Nobody saw it coming. But I was talking to an operative that was close to the Peterson campaign. In fact, he was on his administration. I won't say anything more than that. He said they saw it coming about 6 weeks out. And they
about the time he said, "Hey, I'm going to do an income tax."
They couldn't convince him that he had a legitimate chance of losing. And they knew 2 weeks out the game was over. Door had closed on them. They couldn't win it. And I always wanted to be a fly on the wall for those types of campaigns. Same thing with like when Trump won his first presidency, to be a fly on the wall when he finally realized that he had won the race. That'd be
though? I think he always thought he was going to win. That's the thing about his confidence level, right, wrong, or indifferent. I don't think there's ever been a moment he didn't think he was going to win.
That may be true, but his team,
the smart people around him that know the geopolitical aspect, the operatives were probably like. But it just to see the look on their faces, we're like, Oh my God.
We're going to win
we
this
got
thing.
This.
Now what do we do?
Oh.
We actually got to govern now.
So what's next? I know you got some current things working on Westfield. What are some bold initiatives that you may or may not be stewing upon to continue the evolution of Westfield to becoming this dude? You guys are 75,000?
75,000.
Wow.
Yeah, we're rapidly growing.
Big boys.
I don't say big boys yet. We're getting there for
You're
sure.
not tier 1 city, but
no, we're close. So we're moving to a class 2 city in 2028.
Right.
And that's going to change, a city court. There's a lot of things right now we don't have as a town that we will have now that we go to a class 2 city. So I'm excited about that. But probably the boldest thing we've got right now, and we're going to know here in about 6 months whether this comes to fruition. We're getting ready to select an operator and a builder for a 4-sheet ice complex at Grant Park.
that's amazing.
Yeah, when you look at Grant Park and you look at tourism dollars, we drive more tourism in the state of Indiana than anything else.
Right.
Lucas Oil Stadium's like 78th in the country. We're 16th. It's not even close. But what you see is this wild peak in the summertime and then a complete bottom out in the wintertime.
Yep.
So we want to add a winter component to help balance out that tourism. And so we're in the process right now of selecting a vendor for that. Finance piece, we still got to figure that one out. The numbers have to make sense, and we're still evaluating that. But we think it's going to happen, and it'll be 4 sheets. And you're talking hosting major tournaments, nationwide tournaments at Grant Park for hockey. So
That's
I'm really
amazing.
excited about that.
You're speaking my language here a little bit. So I served about 8 years on the Johnson County Convention Visitors Tourism Commission, appointed by the commissioners here in Johnson County, CVT. Our street name, what we're known for, is Festival Country, Indiana. I served both as secretary and president before I finally just stepped off the board. 8 years was enough.
Yeah,
I don't like
it's a
these
lot of
people
work.
that think they end up owning the position they're in. I always say, if I bring 100 great things to the table and this guy over here brings 2, I should have already left my 100 on the table and I need to get out of the way so this guy can bring his 2. It's just people just think, everybody's replaceable and
Everybody's
move
replaceable.
on. So.
That's
I moved on. I actually serve on as commissioner on the Franklin Fire Merit Board for the mayor here in Franklin now. So that's just my way. I always like to do something where I feel like I'm giving back a little bit.
That's right.
And but I served on the CVT for quite a while, and one of the big things we've discussed is bringing an indoor-outdoor skating rink to Johnson County. Now, hockey's much bigger up on the north end than the south end, but there is a strong contingency of, I'll call it, ice skating sports. One of the guys I've worked with, or the groups I've worked with as a consulting, is the new Indiana Sentinels hockey team, the minor league team down in Columbus. And Johnson County has, especially in the northern half of Johnson County, if you get up into the Greenwood area, there's a hockey contingency. There's one place for all of them to play hockey and figure skating and other things, and that's Perry Park on the south end of Indianapolis. But that thing is falling in. And
I've heard that, that one, there's 2 or 3 ice complexes in central Indiana. Carmel's getting ready to shut theirs down, and I think there's one in Fishers that's just brand new and supports the minor league hockey team, and then the one in Indianapolis, and that one I've heard is going to be shutting down too. I don't know how real that is, but it's falling apart from what I've heard.
When I was on the board, we wanted to work with the city of Greenwood to bring something like that.
It's expensive.
I'll just say it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
Not due to a lack of trying on our end, but I think it's at the end of the day, man, it's a massive pole barn.
Yeah.
Build the damn thing. But the key element that we wanted to do is make it an indoor-outdoor, because everybody likes to skate outside in the winter, ice skate. It would be amazing. But I don't drown horses. I'll lead you to water, but
we're going to fill that gap for Central Indiana.
That's going to be amazing.
Indiana is starting to see a big surge in hockey, especially at the youth age. So we're excited. There's a huge shortage. It'll fill a gap, and more importantly, we're not building ice for the local community, although we will certainly service that.
Open skates.
We're looking at tourism.
Yeah.
And again, we're building these hotels. We want to bring more restaurants and family entertainment into the community. To do that, you have to have more than a 4 or 5 month peak at Grant Park in the summer months. So we think it will help build out what we're lacking right now in our economy.
It's funny when it comes to the CVT. Those were stood up by legislation, by the General Assembly, that all counties will have a convention visitor tourism. And then to fund that, they created the innkeeper's tax. Now, so on the front end, I'm against this. I don't like new taxes.
Yep, I'm with you.
And I don't like industry-specific taxes. I've owned 5 bars, restaurants, and, most elected officials think we're the bottomless pit of taxation to pay for everything, which during COVID was a miracle. You're shutting us down, but you count on all our tax money. We pay stuff that nobody pays, food and beverage, say all that, you combine all that. Well, so I was against an innkeeper's tax. I'm not in the hotel business, but what is right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. In my opinion, it was wrong. They did it, so fine. And then later, I was asked by the commissioners to serve on that board based off of my background, and I did. And I had a few people say, "Well, I thought you were against it." I was like, "I am," but the problem is we get so many people involved in government and the things that affect us. When they don't get their way, they go pout in the corner.
That's right.
No. It's here. We have to deal with it.
So
and I'm going to help make it be all those things that they said it could be. And I have to absolutely admit, I'm still against it on principle. That thing is paid off in dividends for this county. It has drawn so much money. Even the people paying the innkeeper's taxes, the hotels love it, because with that money, it drives more stays. More people are staying at the hotel, driving more people into the county. More money is spent. More taxation is created. And, to have people come in from outside the county to dump their money in here, even if they're just getting gas, that taxes stay here. And so it has absolutely been a financial plus for this county. So, and I don't know how much you're working with your CVT in your county. And then you guys... You got some big communities in there. You guys got to fight for that help up there. Where and down here, we have Franklin, we have Greenwood, and Bargersville is really, arguably going to be the next Fishers. It's exploding. But then I always say, hey, Greenwood and Franklin are doing real good. Let's give some love to the other smaller towns and push that. Trafalgar's got an amazing new town manager kicking butt. Actually, my wife works part-time for Trafalgar on special projects now. They've got a vision there. The council gets it. And they see the growth coming, and they're preparing for it. But I would always say, hey, this CVT money really needs to go to help those smaller communities. So despite being 75,000 now, you're still one of the smaller communities up in that county. Carmel's bigger,
we
Fisher's
are the
bigger.
Smallest city in Hamilton County.
Yep.
We got a town of Cicero and Sheridan that are smaller, but
Yep.
Noblesville's probably 78, 80,000. Carmel and Fishers are both north of 100.
Right.
So we're the little guy on the block right now. Now we have more land mass than Carmel.
I was going to ask you about that.
We should be one day bigger than Carmel. It won't happen
by land.
While I'm mayor. By land, as it builds out, we should pass Carmel in population.
Is there still room for growth through annexation of unincorporated Hamilton County for you guys? Because you're obviously not going east because you're running right into Carmel, correct?
Well, going south we run into Carmel. We go all the way east to the Boone County line, so we can't annex into Boone. We can't annex north into Adams Township because they consolidate their government with the town of Sheridan.
Okay.
And we have the Noblesville to our western border. So we'll consume our township. We've already built out about 55, 60% of the township.
Okay.
So we still got a lot of work to do, a lot of growth to have. And of course, that's all predicated on a farmer wanting to sell.
Right.
We have some pretty big farmers in Westfield still that don't plan on cashing out, and that's great. We support that as well. But if they do cash out, we have a vision for how that growth will happen to support where we're trying to go as a city.
Well, and then there's the growing pains, and you got to deal with the growing pains. Like some of the communities in this county, in my opinion, very unwisely allowed some of these big Amazon hubs. Yeah. Where you put that matters. For whatever financially,
it does.
It may have been a short-term game. I think it's for a not so long-term, more immediate problem. Franklin has done very well. The mayor here in Franklin and the council have made sure that anything like that goes on the opposite side of 65. If you guys understand Franklin, everything, Franklin's on the west side of 65, and it's wide open farm ground on the other side of 65. So put it over there. Don't put it down where you have to contend with it during rush hour, getting on the interstate and everything. Where some of the other communities north of us, Whiteland and Greenwood, have them on the west inside, and it's just become a logistical nightmare.
Land's too expensive in Hamilton County for those kinds of businesses. Not to mention, at least in Westfield, we don't really have the infrastructure. So, like, if an Amazon came to us, we wouldn't be interested because you got US 31 and that's it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the certainly wages are good, but they're
Right.
not great. And you look at the cost of living in Westfield, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense for us. We're looking more towards the high-tech manufacturing, more
Yep.
towards businesses, sports tech. We're definitely, anything that touches sports is kind of what we're carving our niche out to do.
Well, I like that. That seems to make a lot of sense. You know, I just apparently they're putting a Buc-ee's up in there because traffic wasn't bad enough. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on Buc-ee's, but I don't even think
I don't
Buc-ee's,
get it. I've been to, I don't get it. It's
I don't
not
either.
that great.
It's a Walmart gas station.
That's exactly what it is. I've been to one. It was
I
way
call it the
overrated.
hillbilly mecca. But my thing is like, why would I get it's going to bring jobs and stuff, but why would you put that inside the donut counties around Indianapolis in the first place? But then to put it right in the middle of things, literally 10-minute drive from 465, it's gonna
Put that down by
traffic's
Seymour.
bad enough. It's gonna be bad.
I don't disagree.
It should have been, I could tell you, it should have been down there at the Flat Rock, Edinburgh exit, close to down there by the outlet mall.
Down by
wide
Seymour, those
open,
outlet
no
malls, yep.
competition.
That'd be a perfect place.
Here we go. Yeah, but no, Greenwood wanted it, so it's going in Greenwood.
Well, you should have seen when that got announced. My
Wurtsville
residents
Road,
were
I
freaking
guess.
out about it. They wanted a Buc-ee's. I'm like, you don't want a Buc-ee's.
No.
You don't want a Buc-ee's.
Rhymes with Buc-ee's. I just, we shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see. So with your council, you came from the council, in a 9-member council, is that correct? 7.
7. We go to 9 in 2028.
Okay. How's your relationship with your council?
It's good.
Yeah.
When I was on council, the council had a very dysfunctional relationship with the mayor's office. A lot of those councilors got elected basically to oppose the mayor.
Now, is it predominantly Republican?
It's all Republican.
It's all Republican.
Everything's are in Westfield.
Same thing down here.
County,
Okay.
city, everything.
Okay. Even though they were the same party, you had some conflict
A
between
lot of
administration and-
dysfunctionality.
Okay.
Yep, a lot of dysfunctionality, but that's since passed. I mean, every incumbent city councilor that ran got beat.
Oh, wow.
The active mayor obviously retired, so every single one of us are new in our position. Obviously, my first term as mayor, all 7 city councilors are new. The clerk treasurer's new. So it's interesting dynamics, but I think we all learned our lesson from the last time around and how difficult it made it for our city to do any economic development. No good business wants to come into a city where a government isn't functional.
Right.
So we've gotten along really well. We don't always see eye to eye. You don't want us to always see eye to eye, but I think the disagreements have been productive and we've been collaborative in moving the city.
Well, we've
forward.
had similar situation here in Johnson County where it's been just all Republican. Well, as a Republican, you're like, oh, this is great, but that has its issues too.
It does.
Gets really bad. A lot of infighting within the party, a lot of this and that, and then we've been so Republican for so long. Some people figured out if I want to get elected, I got to be a Republican, but they're not Republicans. Who we call them right. We've got some people on various different councils and they're not Republicans. Nothing about them is Republican. And what do you do with that? And it's maybe we do need a little bit of competition to kind of weed out the weak and
when you're one party like we are in Hamilton County, sometimes you get really bad candidates too, right?
Yeah, that's a problem.
because it's too easy.
Good old boy popularity
That's
contest.
right. That's
not the
right.
qualified candidate.
And you don't have good dialogue about the issues. At the municipal level, our issues aren't abortion and border security and all the things
You
that
can't weigh in on
the
that.
red meat stuff, right? Which really draws turnout and support for Republicans, but has nothing to do with what we're doing at the city level. So sometimes you get these candidates, and you even saw it in the governor's race. I mean, hell, Braun was running on border security in Indiana.
Right.
And that's kind of the narrative.
Well, it
that's playing
affects
out.
everywhere, but yeah.
It does, but I mean, I thought the governor's race was not focused on Indiana issues. That was me personally.
Yeah.
But that's what happens, I think, when you get so one party that I think good narratives that help drive good policy in your community get drowned out.
Before you got here today, our executive producer, Mr. Aaron over here, he and I were just, while we're setting everything up and everything, we were talking and everything, and we were talking about the importance of argument.
Yeah.
People equate argument to fight. It doesn't have to be a fight. Argument between two intelligent people that are both well-meaning, coming from two different vantage points, that is where the right answers in life are found. And we argue in a court of law. We argue legislation. That's how all the good things, I mean, our Constitution is full of amendments by our forefathers arguing until they got it right. And that argument's a good thing. We don't need a bunch of people just stuck in a little echo chamber like, oh, they said we do this. This is what we do. We need those people to argue, not fight, but argue so we can really figure out what is the right answer on this. You know, if you stop that argumentative process, you also stop thinking, you start brainstorming, and there could be some low-hanging fruit of a good idea that nobody's looking at and nobody's making any moves. You know, if I was in a leadership role like you are now, I would want, go pick an argument. Just to get these smart people that you work with on the council to just keep digging. And I assume they're doing that now. You said there's a big turnover.
Yeah, I think it woke us up in Westfield. But, hey, look, being a Republican, I love the fact that my community's red, right?
Yeah, right.
So I usually only have a primary battle. I don't have to worry about a general election fight. But the downside of that is, you're less focused on the needs of your community when you don't think you're beatable, right? When you think that, hey, we're going to win, it doesn't matter what we do. And you see sometimes at the State House some of this policy
they just phone it in.
Like, what are you thinking? It's not good policy. But they don't have to worry about getting reelected. So when that happens, sometimes they stray away from the voices of their community. And like I said, in Westfield, we hit the reset button 2 years ago. So I don't think that has set in our community yet. Yeah. And obviously in Westfield, as we grow, we're becoming less red than we were before. But I've seen that happen in Indiana too much.
I'm not going to go so far. I'll just speak to Franklin. I'm not going to go so far as to say we need to do a reset. I'm not going. I mean, I know some of the counselors that are on that, and I think they do an exceptional job. Kenny Austin, probably my favorite. But Kenny, he's an old vet like us. So
nice.
He's been in there a long time. President of council. Just wisdom from years of doing it and everything, works with it. And he tries to get along and work with everybody. And I really like that about him. He's open-minded. You can't just say those red talking points and he's like, yeah, you're right. He's like, well, wait a minute, let's think about that. He thinks it through. So, but I really think constantly pushing, people just kind of get lulled to sleep. You get into the party politics a little bit and they're like, hey, nobody wants to challenge an incumbent, and chairman just like, hey, leave him alone, makes my job easier. I don't want fights in the spring, let's go just walk through the fall. No, man, if we need to dig it, we need to fight a little bit. We need to work it out. This is where let's argue in the spring so we send the best answer in the fall versus limping into the fall, and then one day you wake up and you get blindsided and you got beat just like Bart Peterson did up in Indianapolis.
That's right.
That's what happened. They fell asleep at the wheel. We don't want to repeat that or at least replicate it.
Yeah, and that's always a concern. In Indiana, we've been able to stave that off for a while, but I just keep thinking eventually.
Well, Hamilton's getting a little purple.
Hamilton is getting purple, but even at the national level, yes. But look at Carmel. Sue Finkham won her seat by 15 points over a Democrat. Now, Trump lost. Yeah. He lost in Carmel, but it's still red.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, it's still red. Yes, it's gotten lighter red, but it's still red. But it's a different flavor of red than what you have maybe in Franklin, right? Republicans in Westfield are pretty conservative still, but as we grow, it's going to change over time. And so we as Republicans have to be nimble to that, to not lose our core values. Yeah. We're the only city in Hamilton County that doesn't have a wheel tax. I'm like you. I hate tax. I refuse to pass it, even though the state keeps demanding that we pass this wheel tax. I'm holding out.
Now, they had a punishment basically for.
Yeah, so now they've come up with this, community crossroad. Well, we've had community crossroad grants, but they're throwing more money into the kitty that only those the wheel tax can access. Now, right now, there's no need for us to pass it. We can function and do good road improvements in our community and keep up with growth without an additional tax. Maybe that day changes one day, but I can tell you it will be a hard sell to me to convince me that we need to add a tax. But I govern as mayor through the lens of a Republican. But I also try to take the approach of I don't need to make a mayor more political than it really is. It's blocking and tackling. I clear roads. I keep our residents safe. We look at economic development. And that doesn't have to be political. Unfortunately, at the national level, it has. But I try not to make it political, but I'm always looking decisions like we have zero-based budgeting in Westfield. Since I became mayor, my department heads have to account for every dollar they spend. We haven't raised tax. I've lowered our city tax rate every year I've been mayor, even though we're growing as rapidly as we are. So I'm always looking through that Republican lens, but I try not to get into fights that you would see at the national level that takes your resident who just wants a safe place to live and raise their family. I don't have to make it more political than it needs to be.
So we just had released last week, now former president of the Indiana County Commissioners Association, Johnson County Commissioner Brian Baird, Commissioner of the Year last year, actually. And we talked to him about, during the whole property tax thing, which is dominated everything that was discussed at the state level of tax rate. So we've talked about the taxpayers and how it's hurting us and it's horrible. We've talked about the state level stuff and they're like, hey, 65% of our budget goes to schools. And how at a municipal, because he talked about the county level. Can you talk a little bit about how property tax, right, wrong, or indifferent, good or bad or ugly, has affected you as the mayor of a significant town now?
Yeah, the hard part for us has been keeping up with the growth. And the more they restrict revenue, tax revenue flowing into the city's coffers, the more difficult it is to improve the roads, to widen the roads, to take county roads and turn them into city roads. It's two different things. So it's been challenging, but I never said one negative word about SCA 1 because, again, as a Republican, I'm not going to complain about a tax cut. Now, I would argue SCA 1 doesn't solve the problem. The problem is increased assessed values, and that's going to continue to go up despite what they did. And I'd also argue that the people most impacted by everybody's being impacted, but it's crippling our seniors because they retire at a fixed income level, and yet the property values are climbing higher than the cost of living. So I don't think they addressed the problem at hand, but I appreciate that legislators tried to do something to lower our taxes. As mayor of Westfield, do I like it? No. As a Republican in Westfield, I love it. So I just kind of sat on my hands and said, I don't think they're fixing it the way it needs to be fixed, but I'm certainly not going to go out there and complain about a tax cut.
Well, I love to hear that because I'll quote myself when I was talking with Barry, there's a bunch of lazy ass mayors, as you pointed out. They not only didn't do what you did with respect to this assessment issue, they leaned into it. They're pushing for higher assessments. They just like, hey, Mitch gave us the 3-2-1%, and it's 1% on residential. We just need these, and you've got houses that are, to use some round arbitrary number, this house is worth $250,000, appraised and assessed, and then now it's reassessing at double that at $500,000, and it's just killing, especially the elderly with fixed and other people with fixed incomes. So they just keep raising the assessment of these things falsely. It's like real estate fraud, and it is real estate fraud, and that just so they can get more tax money to raise. No, how about just doing a better job and running your government on the budget you got?
But here's the problem, and I agree with what that last statement you just said, but the problem is in Hamilton County, I would never sell my home for what it's assessed because it's too low. Home prices are climbing so fast in Hamilton County, the assessed values are lagging by probably 3 to 5 years. So what you're seeing is they're chunking it up, trying to catch up. And it's crippling people because it's happening so fast.
Too fast.
Yes.
It's not an incremental thing.
It's not an incremental thing. So I would argue that the assessed values are accurate or low, but it still doesn't make it right in that, you've got taxpayers all of a sudden seeing this $1,000 increase per month on their mortgage payment because their assessed values are climbing so fast.
So did your legislators that cover did they reach out to you? Do they discuss this with you? Do you work through, when it comes to those things that they rule upon that directly impact your community? I mean, you're working with them on it. Did they reach out to you during this whole property tax fiasco?
Some did, some didn't.
Okay.
My representatives, Hunter Smith, Danny Lopez, they were great. I talked to them routinely through SCA 1. I didn't get the vote I wanted from them, but behind the scenes, they were doing everything they could to protect the interests of my community.
At least they communicated with you.
Yeah, at least they communicated. And I understand that if they vote no, they've taken their name out of the game to influence the bill. So it's a fine line they walk, right? If you vote no coming out of the House, and then it comes back to you for modifications, nobody's going to ask you for your opinions because you voted no.
Right.
So I understood where they were at. My state senator, I never heard from, never returned a call. He lives in a vacuum in his own world.
That would be...
Should I say it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Senator Jim Buck.
Jim Buck. Doesn't communicate with you.
Doesn't communicate with me. Nope. And I haven't talked to him in a while. He's out of Kokomo. Well, I don't want to slam him on a podcast, but let's just say that
That's
he doesn't
what this is for.
He doesn't have Westfield's best interests in mind.
Okay.
And a lot of the things that's come out of his committee over the years has really hurt Hamilton County.
Really?
And so it's been frustrating. But in fact, Jim, I think I called him 2 or 3 times during that last session when SEA 1 was working through. Never got a call back. So it's what it is.
What's the biggest town in his district?
Kokomo. Westfield. Westfield's
Yeah,
a big
and he
city.
didn't call the mayor back.
No.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. Well, that in not to over articulate it much, that sucks.
Yeah, it does.
So it just sucks.
It does.
Well, you're on notice. So we've talked about you. What about county level? What's your with your commissioners, your council? What's your relationship with your county officials?
County commissioners are great. Mark Harebrantz lives in Westfield, my community. Him and I have a great relationship. We talk all the time. All the county commissioners and mayors get together quarterly in Hamilton County with very collaborative approach. I'm on a text stream with all the mayors. We all get along really, really well. We don't all see through the same lens, and each city's trying to do their own thing, and we compete
your best
against
interest
each
will
other.
conflict sometimes.
Yeah, and we've competed. I've won and lost against my sister cities in Hamilton County. But when Noblesville wins, Westfield wins, because you don't know when you've left Westfield to go to Noblesville.
Right.
We've all grown together. If Noblesville lands a business, they're probably some of their executives are going to live in Westfield. Right?
Rising tides raise all ships.
So. It really does, and I think in Central Indiana especially, we have a CERTA. Central Indiana Regional Development Authority.
Right.
We're trying to do things more collaborative around economic development, water, utilities, all that stuff. Because, again, as dysfunctional as sometimes we think Indianapolis is, if Indianapolis wins, all the donut counties win as well.
Sure.
So we're all in it together. I want to see Indianapolis succeed. I'm concerned about the direction of Indianapolis, where it's going. But I do believe that if Indianapolis does things right, and if they're successful, all the donut counties will be as well. So
absolutely. So is there anything right now? General Assembly this year has been going for about not quite a month, or maybe a month. Anyway, time flies. Is there anything they're working on right now, or should be working on right now, that you would like to see specifically at the state level that would impact you guys in a positive way?
Yeah, well, I can tell you one thing they're doing in a negative way that everybody's watching is HB 1001. And that's that it's a housing bill to try and bring more affordable housing and more inventory to the state of Indiana. But what it's doing is stripping locals of zoning authority. So you can imagine in your own community, you have no more control of what happens in your backyard. It's a bad bill. I think it's an overstep of state government. I think local government matters. It's closest to the people. So that one we've been fighting really hard on. I don't think there's a city in Indiana that likes that bill. Changes are happening so far that it's making it better, but it's not there yet. One bill that I support that I've been watching very carefully, and it does impact me as mayor, but it's more of just being a Republican and looking at government the way I do, is the whole township government bill, trying to streamline, eliminate that in some areas of our state, like in Westfield.
Yep.
We consume 60 to 70% of our township already. We don't need township government. We can absorb what they're doing. It's just it's bloated government. Now, I love our township trustee. She's great. She works hard. She does a great job. But even she recognizes that there's a lot of overlap and things that we could absorb. The only thing we couldn't absorb today is poor relief, but we could with the right resources. But
so I'm pretty familiar with that aspect. My wife was the deputy trustee down here for Franklin, Union, and Needham, the 3 consolidated townships, for about 9 years. And the functions are there. There has to be somebody in the trustee's role to perform those functions. You can't just pull the plug and it goes away with poor relief, things of that nature.
Especially in rural areas.
Absolutely.
There's no substitute, but in the more municipal areas, there are definitely ways to streamline that because like cemetery maintenance, parks, fire. We're doing all that right now.
Not as many of them are responsible for a fire district as you would think statewide. There's really not that many when you you look at the totality of townships. It's been my personal opinion and that they should consolidate all the townships in a county under one trustee. And then that trustee should no longer be on the ballot. It should be an appointed position, no different than the director of the street department with the county. The commissioner should hire that position. The budget goes through the council. I mean, it should be just the trustee's office should just be another division of our county government. It would dramatically reduce all the redundancy.
That's right.
And you know, you'd have your staff applicable to the size of your that you're in charge of, but. So when they started looking at doing getting rid of some of these elected positions, because I think a lot. Why are we still elected surveyors? We haven't had people
coroners.
Coroners.
What is political about being a coroner?
Why are we electing auditors? Why are we elected treasurers? I mean, these should be appointed under the commissioner. Commissioners are essentially, I always say, the three-headed mayor of the county. Those should be hired by assessors. I don't think should go under the county. I think those should be appointed. That should be a state function.
Yeah.
So they're consistent throughout the state. Because the problem is they're not. Because our county and in your county, probably not on the same page.
That's right.
By default.
That's right.
With that said, if they would just put the trustee, and now you're no longer, you know, Billy down the street's not winning a popularity contest because his last name happens to be the same last name as somebody else's. You know, they are literally hiring the qualified person for each one of those jobs. The reason why when they're putting together that proposed bill in the House to do away with some of those elected capacities, the first one yanked off that thing was the one that needed it the most, the trustee's office. Yeah. Now, why? Well, it's really simple. You got all these trusts. Usually somebody who's a trustee is probably heavily involved in the local dominant political party of that area. None of these legislators know that this needs to happen, but none of them want to piss off their local trustee because that trustee can influence the outcome of their reelection bids. That's what it is. Yeah. We're not going to sugarcoat it to say it's anything else. It is political. They're afraid of, you know, that their trustee, who's probably also a PC or a vice PC or a delegate, will get on the phone and cost them 10% of their normal vote base.
And it's amazing that imagine this, politicians eliminating political jobs. That's never going to happen, right?
Just like taxes.
Yeah.
When do they ever get rid of a tax?
Yeah, we'll scream about it until we actually have to do something.
Yeah. And, so
it's frustrating to watch. Because you're right, my grandfather was a county surveyor in Howard County for 33 years, and he was the first and last time in Howard County, unless it's changed here recently, where he was a licensed surveyor.
Right.
Before and after, they weren't licensed surveyors. So you got somebody doing a very technical job that's not political.
No, their staff that has the credentials that they hire. Yeah.
It's ludicrous, but yet somehow we can't seem to find a way to eliminate these rules because it's common sense.
It's because they get into that political party clique issue. And, you know, we have to call bullshit on ourselves, too.
That's right.
You know, we belong to the Republican Party.
Well, and, you know, we scream term limits until it's local, right?
Yeah.
Well, state doesn't need to be termed. Local doesn't need to be termed. But everybody wants to scream at the national level.
There's a group, and I think they're very well-meaning, that they get every one of these state legislators, candidates and elected, and to sign the congressional term limits bill. I'm like, why don't you get the people in Congress to sign the congressional term limits bill? It's like, I'm like, well, I mean, great. This individual over here in nowhere, Indiana, just signed a congressional term limits bill. They're never running for Congress. They ain't got a shot in hell. Yeah. Why? What the? It's like it's exercise in futility, in my opinion. But whatever. If it keeps the conversation going, I'm for it. And you know, and I think so. There's definitely. It's not a negative. It's a positive. But it's just I don't think it's the positive that people think it might be.
Yeah, I disagree.
We need to start. I like small government. I like local government. However, we would be wrong in saying that there's clearly not a dramatic overlap and a shit ton of redundancy on some of these offices. That's never advantageous for a taxpayer.
Yeah.
You know, they've tried to consolidate. They're trying to consolidate the 3 townships to the south end of this county right now, and there's one trustee that absolutely refuses. You know why? Because he knows he can't win that, and he doesn't want to give up his little extra income. He doesn't do his job. I think his office is open for like 2 hours a week, It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's an absolute joke. And then the taxpayers they start looking into that stuff.
Yeah.
This was wrong. Could you imagine if there was a trustees department under the county with the staff and everything? They effectively have to represent and will represent the entirety, all the not just because generally, if you see problems in a local elected office, we just saw what happened in Bartholomew County with that trustee down there, $1.2 million. And here's the thing.
Unbelievable.
His board didn't catch it. So what the hell are they doing? His elected trustees board didn't catch it. $1.2 million. And then the State Board of Accounts didn't catch it. What the hell's the point of State Board of Accounts?
Well,
they only caught him.
Yeah.
They only caught him because somebody did an anonymous tip.
Yeah.
No, the board should 100% caught it.
Yeah,
you got a 3-member trustee board. They're supposed to look at how do you miss $1.2 million?
And not all boards are created equal. I don't want to throw them all under the bus, but some, probably many, aren't qualified enough to look at a budget and even find those kinds of problems.
Absolutely.
It takes somebody and...
Where was the legal counsel hired by the trustees department?
There's a lot of breakdowns, but it just goes
State
back
Board of
to...
Accounts missing that?
Yeah.
What's the point of State Board of Accounts?
That is the problem. So
they have no teeth.
When you have all these elected officials doing technical jobs they have no experience to do.
Yep. Elected and appointed. A lot of these appointed people aren't
absolutely.
qualified.
And then when you have the experts that are supposed to have oversight and they're not, where do you go? I look at our township board. We got some pretty competent people on
ours.
Now,
you say you work with your local trustee well?
I do. We meet every month. She's great, a dear friend of mine. She's doing great things.
Good.
If you'd asked me 10 years ago would I want to take on her role, I'd say absolutely not. But now the city continues to grow, we're getting to a point where it makes sense in Westfield. And even she says that.
Well, you have to have a relationship like that with that much overlap.
Well, we share a fire budget. She gets for the township. We strategize on parks all the time because as we grow and sprawl, we're going to eventually inherit her parks. So we're very collaborative in park locations.
How many cemeteries does she have responsibility over landscaping?
I don't know that, but not a lot.
And we've
got a few pocket cemeteries.
And it's not like they're out there cutting the lawn themselves. They're outsourcing anyway. And you throw it into the Parks Department, it's done. That's right.
The one thing she does that I just don't have the expertise, my staff, is poor relief.
And that's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. It's probably the most important thing they do.
I refer to my wife because my wife was the lead case manager, as the deputy. That's her thing. She's my bleeding heart conservative. I God love her. But she's perfect. She's a social worker by trade because there's a lot of money in that.
That's why you're rich.
Yeah, I know. And I just love she. Good Lord, I just not speak, but she is always referred to like people she's worked with in case management, not just there, as her clients, and I'm like clients. You can't get rights, some of them, but no, there's genuinely times where there are good people that just in a civilized society, they're not asking for a handout. It's a hand up, and they need a bridge. They need this, lost the job, got to keep the utilities on, got to feed my kids, but while I'm looking for another job. And my wife did a wonderful job of discerning between, she get on her. I'll give you an example. This is a hilarious one. Guy comes in, he needs help paying his mortgage that month. So she looks at, my wife gets on, I joke, she's got black belt in Google Foo. My wife refuses to have social media, but she gets in my accounts. She starts looking stuff up. This dude is in the process of trying to buy a cabin on a lake, and he needs his mortgage payment for that month to go to his down payment, and because he just bought a boat, and it's all on Facebook. Well, needless to say, they did. So she did her due diligence. She was all over that stuff. Yeah. She looked into everything. They do site checks with people that they're helping with housing, and and sadly, this area, Johnson County, is one of the only counties in the entire state of Indiana that does not have a homeless shelter.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You guys are wealthy down here, huh?
Yeah. Well, certain municipalities don't want it in their city limits. Yeah. It's not a leper colony, man. Yeah. But that's a whole other story I can't speak to because I'm not a subject matter expert. I haven't dug in that. This is stuff I just heard. But at any rate, there's homeless everywhere. Yeah. There really is. You know, just because they're staying on their friend's couch, you know, doesn't mean they're not homeless. You know, and that's where I'm just like, you know, everybody thinks I'm just this hard fiscal conservative guy. You know, I always tell people I am fiscally conservative. I'm socially responsible. You know, you and I did this. What we did is we stood vigilant and protected and fought for the freedoms that at some point in our life. The one thing I'm not going to do is step on them.
Yeah.
We lost too many friends, and too many Americans have died ensuring that we have all these freedoms.
That's right.
And there's this unique thing about freedom. Usually, in most things, there's gray matter. I don't think that's the case in freedom. I think you either have all of it or you have none of it. And when you start putting a kink in the armor, you may still think you have it, but you're not. It's being dramatically undermined. So there's just going to be people that do with their freedoms that I personally may just not care for. None of my fucking business.
That's right.
You do you. As long as whatever you're doing doesn't negatively impact somebody else that has freedom as well. Do you? I don't care.
I'm with that. I've always told people I have a very strong independent streak when it comes to the social side, and it's more of just a libertarian approach. I don't think the government should have one say in how I live my life. And as long as the way I'm living life doesn't negatively impact you, it's not your problem.
To each his own.
That's right.
Leave me alone.
That's
your
right.
freedom ends where mine begins.
That's right.
Yada, yada, yada. I just tell people all the time. I talk with people, especially my libertarian friends, one of which, a good friend of mine, Brad Kloppenstein, diehard libertarian, because I tell people all the time, when he walks in a room, he's generally the smartest dude in the room. And it's like, so my libertarian friends are always like, man, all your views when it comes to social things are very libertarian. And I'd like to think that libertarians are good Republicans.
They're old Republicans is what they are.
I just tell them.
Back in the day.
They're like, why are you still a Republican? I said, well, maybe I'm a libertarian that likes to win. I don't know. So I had to take a dig there, but no.
I'm definitely Republican. There are some things libertarians believe that I can't get on board with.
Because my party pisses me off, but quitting is not the option. You got to stay. We focus so much on what our neighbors doing in their yard. We forget you haven't mowed your own grass in 3 months.
That's right.
You got to clean up your backyard if you're going to bitch about your neighbor's yard, and
That's right.
we should do that. And then don't call somebody a bad Republican, or if you're a Democrat, a bad Democrat, because you start calling bullshit on your own. No, I'm doing my job. There's all kinds of leadership out there. There's leading in front. I call it leading laterally, when you're leading shoulder to shoulder. Nobody's in a direct leadership role, but you're leading by example. And you should call bullshit on bullshit. You know, that's what makes us legitimate. That's the integrity dictates we have to do that.
That's right.
And we need more people to do that, as opposed to getting into the position and then going along to get along. I don't want to do anything to make anybody mad. I want to piss off this trustee because you have to lose the damn job. Who cares?
That's right.
You know, do the right thing.
I certainly won't sell my soul to the devil to keep my job.
No.
Like
you took a pay cut.
My life was a lot better before I became mayor.
Oh, what's the downside? You can go get a real job, make good, or run your own businesses, make significantly less money, and nobody's on social media calling you the devil every day, all day.
That's right. Nobody's coming at me.
What a bad deal.
That's right.
What a bad deal.
Yeah.
Well, brother, is there anything else you want to touch in on while we're here? Is anything going on personally, or I don't know, were you freaking Westfield pickleball champ or some shit? Is there anything you want to touch on before we close this up?
I don't think so. I'm just a little fun fact. I'm heading out of town on Thursday to go snowmobiling up in Maine. So I am excited and a little bit dreading at the same time. I looked at the weather forecast this morning. It was 30 below zero this morning. So that's going to be fun.
That's awesome.
But I am looking forward to getting away.
You know how I know you're from Indiana? You said snowmobiling. If you go up to Michigan or Maine, it's snow machines.
Snow machines.
Snow machines.
That's snowmobiling.
I only know that because my wife's from Michigan, and I was educated on these are snow machines. So
I haven't been on a snow machine since I was 13. So this is going to be an interesting.
I've been on one once, but I was riding on the back.
Holding on for dear life.
I was like 12 years old. A friend of mine had one. We were rolling through the neighborhood on the east side of Indianapolis. How bad's that?
Back in the day when you had snow, during the winter months, every day.
Well, we were bumper sliding on the back of it.
Oh, Lord.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. This generation doesn't know anything about fun.
No.
Remember, for you kids listening at home, I am not vouching for. Please don't do this. Besides that, the bumpers on the cars today can't take it. We used a bumper slide. Google it. You'll figure it out. It was a blast. You hit the lottery when the UPS truck came down the road. We all got on that bumper. So, all right, brother. Hey, I want to thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It's fun.
Thank you for your 30 years of service to our nation in the Marine Corps and your continued service as the mayor of Westfield and being just a good conservative, pragmatic Republican who's just not drinking the Kool-Aid, just trying to do a good job, and we love it. And I appreciate you coming in here unfiltered and having a conversation.
I appreciate the invite. It was real fun.
All right, brother. Thanks, you.
Brian.
All right, guys. That's it for this week. Everybody get on social media with Jerry on Indy Spanglish on Twitter and Facebook and make fun of him for not being able to make it here. Apparently, his mother can make it 90 miles from Cuba to the United States over water, but he can't make it through snow. Yeah, that's right. I called you out. So anyway, Jerry, we missed you. And again, Colonel Willis, thank you again. Appreciate it. See you guys.